I wish that were the punchline to some terrible joke, but if you've lived in our house for the past 18 months, you'd know better than to question Ella's sincerity. Nothing is funny to her anymore. My wife used to be a joker. That was before we spent a year and a half unsuccessfully trying to conceive a child. Back then, she wore irony like a jumpsuit. A defensive article so well fastened to her body, she would have been unable to remove it in a hurry. But Ella lost that side of herself after months upon months of failed attempts at conception. Her spell was only broken on Saturday morning, around 3 o'clock, when the two of us were stirred from our sleep by a rapping on the bedroom window. Or maybe I was stirred by the ecstatic gasp Ella let out. "What's that noise?" I asked as the knocking persisted. I rubbed my eyes as my wife eagerly bounded out of bed and rushed towards the window. She tore open the drapes and invited streetlight into the room. "It's here," she whispered. Half awake with my eyesight and brain both woolly, I saw something absurd perching on that wooden ledge. Two things, I should say. A baby swaddled in pristine white fabric, and whiter still, a stork. The bird sat with its blood-red legs tucked under its large white feathers, watching with black eyes of unnerving intellect as Ella opened the window and scooped the sleeping baby from its resting position on the ledge. "Thank you," my wife said to the animal. Meanwhile, I hadn't managed to say a thing. I was dumbfounded into silence, I suppose, because there was a fucking stork on our windowsill. A fucking stork that had more nonsensically still brought us a newborn babe in a cotton burrito wrap to our suburban home at 3:17 a.m. Where did that child, I began, not knowing what word to choose, originate? A silly word, perhaps, but I knew the newborn hadn't originated from us. Obviously, you might say, but nothing seems obvious to me anymore. Not after what Ella and I experienced this weekend. "Originate," she said. "Well, from the stork, of course." I sighed. "Ella, the stork brought us a child. You saw it with your own eyes." "I don't know what I saw." "Okay," she said absently, still not looking away from that thing in her arms. I hated thinking of the child that way, as a thing. But this whole ordeal felt unnatural, supernatural. Why? Call it a gut instinct, even if that makes your eyes roll, but I'm not some Fruit Loop. Until that day, I'd never leant one way or the other when it came to superstitions or paranormal phenomena. That morning, however, I felt the tingle of some sense I hadn't previously known I even possessed. This was very bad. And not the my dash wife dash has dash bought dash a dash child dash from dash the dash black dash market bad. I got out from under the duvet and trotted delicately over to my wife, opting to take the gentler approach. "When we were leaving the clinic last week and you were still talking to Dr. Harper, the receptionist consoled me. She told me a number to call." "What do you mean?" I asked. "What number?" Ella ignored me. "I called it, then I waited 11 days, like the man said. Waited for a ripe child. Ripe. I didn't like the way that clunky and oddly chosen word had been wedged into her last sentence. "The man?" I asked. "Ella, you're being so cryptic. Please, help me out here." I waited 11 days, and that brings us to this morning. A white-winged angel delivered this gorgeous boy to us. A boy of our own. Just what we've been killing ourselves to create for nearly 2 years. We've earned this, Philip. We've worked hard enough for it, haven't we? Haven't we? I don't know why I gave up at that moment. I think my brain broke completely. "I think we need to sleep now," I whispered, walking over to the window. Ella nodded and smiled again. "Yeah, I suppose I should put little Adam down into the cot." A man was standing on the other side of the street. He had been looking up at our window. When I opened the curtains again to get a second look, he was gone. Of course he was gone. But that was a blessing from my perspective, as it only helped me to dismiss the whole thing as sleep-deprived madness. Just a bizarre dream born of your heartbreak in this complicated time. You're grieving the child you and Ella are unable to conceive, that's all. You'll see when you wake up. And then you'll book a therapist because, let's be honest, this is the most lucid nightmare of your life. Which means the man was real too, was the next frightening thought, asterisk. Asterisk, my gut lurched. And I spent most of Saturday staring out of windows at our empty street. And the daylight vanished quickly on that short winter day, so I was left staring out into the black, fighting to discern shapes moving between the glow of the street lamps. My heart didn't loosen. I don't think it had loosened since Adam arrived. "Philip," said Ella at the end of the day, "I'm going to need you to help me out more tomorrow." I frowned at my wife, who was once so sharp-minded. "What the hell is wrong with you? I know you've not been yourself for a long time, but this isn't that. Now you're barely acting human, never mind acting like Ella. A stork delivered a baby to our window. We know nothing about this child. We know nothing about that man in the street. And I know you feel that tightness in your chest, just like I do. The warning that something unearthly is afoot, that we need to get out of here right now." That was the speech I should have given Ella. "Sorry," I replied instead. I know my behavior seemed strange, but I was in shock. But holding the baby made everything worse. My fingers had never felt so frozen. Not figuratively, but quite literally frozen, for the baby was ice cold to the touch. Worse yet, Adam looked at me with a face like no other. Again, I'm not being a shithead. I have nephews and nieces in abundance. I've seen and held newborns before. I know they all look different, but this just wasn't right. I've never seen a baby's face quite like his. Never seen a human's face quite like his. Adam wasn't safe. That was all I thought as he smiled up at me, in a manner too knowing. In a manner unthinkably sinister. His little fingers curled around one of mine, striking me with terror so pointed and piercing that I thought my heart might give out there and then. I'd been right all along. This baby was a thing. Just as I was about to put Adam back into the cot and flee the house, grabbing Ella in the process, I was glued to the spot by a sound. A creak from the wardrobe at the other side of the room. My hands at long last warmed up, becoming clammy as I faced the now ajar door of the closet to find darkness. And by the time I had clocked the shape moving towards me, it was already upon me. He was upon me. That man, face masked by the shade of that unlit room with drapes drawn closed. I screamed as he pinned me to the ground, elbow flattening my windpipe, and the world faded as he spoke to me in a tone full of grit. "You're not the father he needs. You see too much of him, don't you? You shouldn't. He isn't ripe yet." The black outline of my vision pushed inwards, stealing away the world. I thought of Ella and even baby Adam. "Goodbye, Adam, you ripe little thing."